is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.
In the headlines, Iran has dismissed the recent U.S. rescue mission as a failed attempt to seize enriched uranium. Despite the rebuke, Tehran signaled a potential ease in maritime tensions near the Strait of Hormuz. Diplomatic talks remain stalled as Iran formally rejects a 15-point U.S. peace proposal. Tehran is demanding a permanent end to hostilities rather than a temporary ceasefire. The blockage in the Gulf is triggering a global economic crisis, disrupting 25% of the world's seaborne oil trade. Economists warn the standoff now threatens to sharply shrink global GDP. Prime Minister Viktor Orban is pointing to Ukraine after explosives were found near the Turk Stream pipeline. Orban stated the incident fits a familiar pattern of sabotage against European energy. Back home, a former cabinet member is raising concerns over the ombudsman's order to release lawmaker Sal Ens. Critics argue the mandated release could be weaponized against those under investigation. And in showbiz, Gigi Hadid has responded after being named in unsealed Jeffrey Epstein documents. The supermodel denied any wrongdoing, dismissing the mention as a misleading connection. I'm Prince Tripoli. Newsline World starts now. For our first story, Iran's foreign ministry has dismissed the recent U.S. search and rescue mission as a failed attempt to seize enriched uranium, while simultaneously signaling a potential de-escalation of maritime tensions in the Strait of Hormuz. This report from Almar Fursuelo.
Iran has labeled the recent U.S. Special Operations Mission a second tabas, a reference to the disastrous 1980 attempt to rescue American hostages. In a sharp briefing from Tehran, Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ismaili Bakei claimed that the distance between the reported F-15E crash site and the actual deployment of U.S. forces suggests the rescue was merely a covert operation designed to steal enriched uranium from central Iran. While President Donald Trump hailed the mission as miraculous, Iran maintains the operation was a tactical failure.
منطقه‌ای که ادعا میشد خلبان آمریکایی حضور داره در کوهگیلویه و بوی رحمت تا منطقه‌ای که اینها اقدام به پیاده کردن نیرو کردند یا می‌خواستند بکنند فاصله زیادی داره در مرکز ایران. بنابراین این که احتمال دارد این یک عملیات فریب برای دزدیدن اورانیوم غنی شده بوده باشه به هیچ عنوان نباید نادیده گرفت. اما عرض کردم آنچه که مشخص است نتیجه این عملیات چیزی نبود جز تبس دو.
Despite the heated rhetoric, a significant diplomatic shift is underway. Bakei confirmed that Iran has entered official discussions with Oman to establish a safe passage protocol for vessels through the Strait of Hormuz. The move is seen as a responsible decision to stabilize global energy markets, which have been rattled by oil prices surging past $100 per barrel. Omani authorities confirmed they are hosting the talks to prevent further maritime skirmishes as the regional conflict enters its second month.
خیلی مسئولانه تصمیم گرفتیم علیرغم اینکه در شرایط جنگی قرار داریم و اولویت ما دفاع از کشور هست، با وجود این تصمیم گرفتیم که با عمان به عنوان کشور دیگر ساحلی تنگه هرمز گفتگوهایی رو شروع بکنیم با هدف بررسی یک پروتکل، یک شیوه‌نامه جهت عبور و مرور ایمن شناورها از تنگه هرمز.
The spokesperson also used the briefing to document what he called illegal interference by the U.S. citing President Trump's recent claims of sending weapons to fuel internal unrest. As the new leadership under Mujtaba Khamenei solidifies its stance, Tehran appears to be choosing a path of selective diplomacy, offering a maritime olive branch to Oman while maintaining a defiant military posture against the rising lion operations. Reporter for Newsline World, Almar Forsuelo, SMNI News.
Tehran has formally rejected a 15-point U.S. peace proposal, delivering a START 10-point counter document through Pakistani mediators that calls for a permanent end to hostilities rather than a temporary ceasefire. The details from Carlo de la Peña.
The diplomatic tug-of-war between Washington and Tehran reached a critical junction. Iran's state media reported that Tehran has dismissed the latest Washington peace plan as excessive and disconnected from reality. In its place, the new leadership under Mojtaba Khamenei has submitted a 10-point response, asserting that past experiences have proven a ceasefire would only allow aggressors to regroup for further strikes. Iran's demands include the total withdrawal of U.S. and Israeli forces, full compensation for war damages, and the international recognition of Iranian sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz. President Donald Trump addressed the Iranian counteroffer during a press conference on Monday. While he characterized the 10-point document as a significant step, he ultimately labeled it not good enough.
They made a proposal, and it's a significant proposal. It's a significant step. It's not good enough, but it's a very significant step.
Trump further intensified the pressure by declaring that his Tuesday deadline for a definitive deal is final, signaling a potential return to unrestricted strikes if negotiations fall.
ضرب الاجل نباید باعث بشه که ما در دفاع از کشورمون کمترین تردیدی به خودمون راه بدیم. این یک. دو، پرسیدید چرا آتش بس نه؟ دلیلش بزرگان ما قبلا عرض کردن، ما هم به تبعیت از اونها عرض میکنیم که دلیلش تجربه است. آتش بس یعنی چی؟ آتش بس یعنی که مدت کوتاهی رو وقفه ایجاد بکنند برای تمدید نیرو و برای ارتکاب مجدد جنایت. هیچ عاقلی این کار رو انجام نمیده.
The rejection follows what Tehran describes as the unsuccessful outcome of a U.S. helicopter operation in central Iran, which the foreign ministry previously labeled a failed attempt to seize nuclear material. Since the conflict began on February 28, the cycle of violence has claimed thousands of lives, including the late Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. As the clock ticks toward Tuesday, the prospect of a diplomatic exit remains shadowed by ongoing missile and drone strikes. Iran maintains that peace can only be achieved if Washington and Tel Aviv accept a total cessation of aggression across all fronts in West Asia. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Carlo de la Peña, SMNI News.
Crisis in Cuba, as systematic fuel shortages triggered by U.S. sanctions paralyze hospitals, water systems, and schools nationwide. Verhil Parpa reports.
Cuba is facing a multiplying humanitarian impact that has left the island in a state of prolonged energy instability. UN Resident Coordinator Francisco Pichon warned that crisis reached a breaking point in March when the national power grid collapsed 3 times, plunging the entire country into darkness for days. The consequences are increasingly lethal. More than 96,000 surgeries have been postponed, including 11,000 procedures for children, while roughly 1 million people now depend on water trucking services that are themselves constrained by a lack of diesel.
Energy crisis is having rather systemic and multiplying humanitarian impact, affecting all aspects of daily life in Cuba, health, water and sanitation, food systems, education, transportation, telecommunications. And the country has gone for more than 3 months without sufficient fuel, and the humanitarian consequences, as you might expect, continue to deepen every day, despite recent efforts to deliver fuel by the Russian Federation. And while any additional fuel may provide temporary relief, it is insufficient compared to the scale of the national needs. and does not really address the structural nature of the oil blockade and how it affects all essential services.
The arrival of the Russian tanker Anatoly Kolodkin with 100,000 tons of crude this week provided a brief window of relief estimated to last only 12 to 13 days. While U.S. President Donald Trump recently stated he has no problem with individual shipments from Russia or other nations, his administration de facto energy blockade imposed in January continues to threaten secondary tariffs on any country providing sustained oil supplies to Havana. To address the immediate threat to life, the UN has activated a $94 million humanitarian response plan, repurposing resources originally intended for the recovery from Hurricane Melissa, which devastated the island last October.
We have over 96,000 surgeries that have been postponed, including more than 11,000 surgeries for children. The national immunization program is also delayed, affecting around 3,000 children. We have about 1 million people that depend on water trucking for drinking water, and which are currently constrained by the fuel shortages. We have about 411,000 children and adolescents that are attending shortened school days. We are exploring with other actors who can contribute logistical solutions, including fuel. And we are doing this with the private sector in Cuba. These are ongoing, these dialogues are ongoing, and we hope that we have a solution soon to ensure the operational viability of our entire plan.
As the UN engages in delicate dialogues with the U.S. mission in New York to secure humanitarian fuel access, the island remains on a knife edge. With a $60 million funding gap and no steady oil supplier following the removal of the Maduro government in Venezuela, the UN warns that without a structural solution to the blockade, the Caribbean nation's social and healthcare models face imminent collapse. This has been Verhil Parba, your global citizen correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
OPEC Plus has agreed to ramp up oil production next month as the group moves to ease the energy supply crunch triggered by the ongoing war in the Middle East. The decision to increase output by 206,000 barrels per day in May was announced following a virtual meeting on Sunday attended by 8 member nations: Saudi Arabia, Russia, Iraq, the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Kazakhstan, Algeria, and Oman. Beyond the production increase, the group voiced concern over attacks on energy infrastructure, warning that damage to oil and gas assets is both costly and time-consuming to repair, adding further strain to already tight global supplies. The 8 countries also stressed the critical importance of keeping international maritime routes open and secure to ensure the free flow of energy. Pointed reference to the effective closure of the Strait of Hormuz since the U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iran began February 28. The group is scheduled to meet again on May 3rd to assess conditions and make further decisions. The conflict has severely disrupted regional energy flows since it began, with crude oil and refined product shipments declining significantly and prices surging as a result. Up next, Prime Minister Viktor Orban is pointing to Ukraine after explosives were found near the Turk Stream pipeline. Orban said the incident fits a familiar pattern of sabotage against European energy. And the Kremlin is also blaming Kiev for the attempted pipeline attack in St. Petersburg. Spokesperson Dmitry Peskov called it highly likely that Ukrainian agents were beyond the explosives. More news when Newsline World returns.
Isang pindot lang, pwede kang maka-jackpot. Mukhang masaya at easy money lang. Sa murang halaga, pwede ka na tumaya sa online gambling at e-casino apps. Mayroong sabong, slot machines, mahjong, poker at iba pa. Kailangan mo lang ng smartphone, e-wallet at internet. Pero ang aliw na ito, unti-unting nagiging bitag para sa mga Pilipino. Lalo na kung ang paborito mong artista o influencer ang mukha ng app. Mas madaling makaengganyo, diba? Parang safe naman kasi may kilalang mukha. Pero sa likod ng ngiti, sugal pa rin ang itinutulak. At syempre, mas madali ring itago ang pagkalulong sa bisyong ito. Walang pisikal na kasino o pasugalan, walang kaharap, walang accountability, kaya't mas lumalala ang adiksyon. Dagdag pa rito, maraming online gambling apps at walang regulasyon. Sa likod ng mga makukulay na interface at papremyo, nakatago ang problemang bumabalot ngayon sa bansa. Ang pagkalulong ng maraming Pilipino sa online gambling. Pwede maglaro kahit saan, kahit kailan, kahit sino, bata man o matanda, pwedeng malulong. Ayon sa mga eksperto, ang pagkakalulong sa online gambling ay nagdudulot ng matinding stress at anxiety, pagkakabaon sa utang, pagkawasak ng pamilya, pagkawala ng tiwala sa sarili. At tulad ng ibang bisyo, may mga senyales ito tulad ng hindi makapagpigil kahit walang pera, palihim na tumataya, pagpapabaya sa trabaho, pamilya o sarili. Sa bawat taya, may mga taong tunay na kumikita, mga malalaking negosyante at investors na negosyo ang bisyo ng masa. Para sa kanila, perang pumapasok lang ito. Pero para sa ordinaryong Pilipino, kabuhayan at relasyon ang nauubos. At ang masakit, tila matagal itong nahayaan. Hindi ito naging prioridad ng mga nakaupo sa taas hanggang sa sobrang lumala at halos naapektuhan na ang buong komunidad. Ngayon, sa dami ng nalulung at sa laki ng pinsalang naidulot, sa kapalalong umugong ang mga panukalang batas para higpitan ng online gambling, gaya ng pagbabawal sa paggamit ng e-wallets para tumaya, pagtaas ng minimum bet, mas mahigpit na identity verification, pag-block ng mga illegal na gambling sites, at bawasan o ipagbawal ang mga ads na target ang kabataan. Maaari itong magmukhang laro lang, pero sa katotohanan, isa itong sugal sa kinabukasan. Ang kita na dapat sa mga pangunahing pangangailangan o ipon na uubos sa sugal. At sa mundo ng online gambling, mas madali kang matalo kaysa manalo. Huwag hayaang sugal ang magdikta sa iyong buhay. Isang paalala mula sa SMNI.
Sa panahon ng ingay, sa panahon ng maraming tanong, panahon na para marinig ang katotohanan.
Sa totoo lang, ano ba talaga ang nangyayari sa ating bansa?
At sa totoo lang, handa ba tayong harapin ang katotohanan?
Sa totoo lang,
dito walang iwasan,
walang paligoy-ligoy.
Diretsong usapan.
Sa totoo lang.
Sa SMNI.
Ikaw ba ay namomroblema sa taas ng electric bill buwan-buwan? Huwag mag-alala, narito ang ilang paraan upang makatipid sa kuryente. Patayin ang mga ilaw at appliances kapag hindi ginagamit. Sa halip ay gumamit ng natural na liwanag upang makatipid sa kuryente. Tanggalin sa saksakan ang mga appliances kung hindi ginagamit. Iwasan ang paggamit ng maraming appliances ng sabay-sabay. Gumamit ng LED bulbs. Ito ay mas tipid sa kuryente kumpara sa mga incandescent at fluorescent bulbs. Regular na linisin ang mga appliances tulad ng electric fan, aircon vents at refrigerator. Magkaroon ng takdang araw sa isang linggo sa pamamalansya at paglalaba. Gumamit ng energy-efficient appliances. Tandaan, maging wais sa paggamit ng kuryente upang makatipid para mas gumaan ang buhay. Ang paalalang ito ay hatid sa inyo ng SMNI.
Pagod? Nanunuyo ang lalamunan? O baka naman nahihirapan kang mag-focus sa ginagawa? Kapartner, baka naman dehydrated ka na. Ang katawan natin ay binubuo ng halos 60% hanggang 70% na tubig. Kung walang sapat na hydration, parang sasakyang walang gasolina ang ating katawan, hindi makakaarangkada. Bakit nga ba mahalaga ang tamang hydration? Hindi lamang ito pamatid uhaw dahil nakatutulong rin ito sa pagdaloy ng sustansya sa katawan, pagpapanatili ng tamang body temperature, at pagpapakinis ng kutis. Kaya't huwag nang hintayin pang mauhaw ka bago uminom. Ang pagkauhaw ay babala na ng iyong katawan na ikaw ay dehydrated na. Ang standard na payo ng mga doktor ay 8 baso ng tubig ang dapat inumin bawat araw. Pero tandaan, depende ito sa iyong timbang, edad at kung gaano ka ka-active. Samantala, narito ang ilang gabay para manatiling hydrated. Simula ng araw sa isang basong tubig. Magbaon ng sariling tumbler para siguradong may maiinom saan man magpunta. At hanggat maaari, piliin ang tubig kaysa mga matatamis na inumin. Kaya mga kapartner, manatiling hydrated para makaiwas sa mas malalang sakit at upang maalagaan ang iyong kalusugan.
And we're back. The ongoing restrictions in the Strait of Hormuz have triggered a devastating economic ripple effect, disrupting 25% of the world's seaborne oil trade and threatening to shrink global GDP. More on this from Jane Cunita.
The Strait of Hormuz, the world's most critical energy artery, remains the primary battlefield of a systemic economic war. Following U.S. and Israeli strikes, Iran has restricted navigation through the waterway, specifically targeting vessels linked to Washington and Tel Aviv. The impact is staggering: 20 million barrels of crude and oil products, roughly a quarter of global seaborne trade, are now caught in a high-stakes maritime blockade. According to a March report from the International Energy Agency, the disruption has created a supply gap of up to 16 million barrels per day, a deficit that even the largest ever emergency stock release of 400 million barrels has failed to stabilize. The crisis is hitting Asian markets hardest. Japan and South Korea, which depend on the strait for 90 and 95% of their oil consumption respectively, are facing an existential energy threat. Beyond fuel, the blockade is strangling the global supply of liquefied natural gas, or LNG, with 20% of the world's trade, primarily from Qatar, stalled in the Gulf. Economists warn that the Hormuz effect is now bleeding into every sector of the global economy, as surging insurance premiums and fuel costs drive up the price of food and basic commodities.
Shipping costs are rising because of insurance premiums, because of higher fuel costs, and because of longer trips as you have to avoid certain parts, then that starts feeding through to higher prices of other goods as well. That could be food, commodities, etc. And then the other thing to think about is inventory and supply chain disruptions. And then when you combine all of these factors together, it feeds into producer price indices and then consumer price indices.
Fitch Ratings' latest outlook suggests that if this regional conflict persists until June, global real GDP growth could shrink by nearly 1 percentage point. As the Tuesday deadline for a final deal approaches in Washington, the global market remains on a knife edge, waiting to see if the world's most important shipping lane will be reopened, or if the current systemic shock will turn into a full-scale global recession. This has been Jane Cunita, Global Citizen Correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban is pointing the finger at Ukraine after explosive devices were discovered near the Turk Stream pipeline in Serbia, stopping short of a direct accusation but saying the incident fits a familiar pattern. Joy Tabanao reports.
Hungary's Viktor Orbán flew to Kiskonduruzma to personally inspect Hungary's section of the Turk Stream pipeline, the infrastructure he has long called his country's lifeline for gas, after Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić reported that explosives of devastating power had been discovered near the pipeline on the Serbian side over the weekend. Vučić said he had already been in direct contact with Orbán following the issue. Orbán said he would not directly accuse Ukraine without concrete evidence, but made clear the incident fits a pattern he has seen before, saying, quote, "It is undoubtedly true that what we are experiencing here fits into a sequence of events, as the Ukrainians have such capabilities and are willing and able to do such things." The discovery was first reported by Serbia, where President Aleksandar Vučić said explosives of devastating power were found near the pipeline over the weekend, and that he had already been in contact with Orbán. Orbán announced he would deploy reinforced military monitoring and protection to Hungary's section of the pipeline, warning that cutting it would grind the Hungarian economy to a halt and leave hundreds of thousands of families without gas. The incident is unfolding just days before Hungary's general election on Sunday, a timing that has drawn scrutiny. Opposition leader Peter Magyar accused Orbán of engineering the incident as a political stunt, saying the Fidesz party, facing collapsing poll numbers, wanted to cross a new border with the help of Serbia and Russian actors ahead of Sunday's election. Magyar noted that many people had publicly predicted something would accidentally happen at the Serbian gas pipeline at Easter, a week before Hungarians go to the polls. But Orbán dismissed the politicization of the issue, saying it should not be turned into a campaign talking point. A broader backdrop is a deepening rift between Budapest and Kiev. Hungary has blocked a €90 billion EU loan to Ukraine over the Druzhba oil pipeline dispute, with Orbán accusing Kiev of deliberately halting supplies for political reasons. Ukraine denies it, blaming Russian strikes. The Hungarian government has also accused Ukraine of funding the opposition with smuggled gold bars and cash, a claim Magyar has called the smear. This has been Joy Tabanao, your global citizen correspondent reporting for Newsline World.
The Kremlin is pointing the finger at Ukraine over the discovery of explosives near the Turk Stream pipeline in Serbia, with spokesperson Dmitry Peskov saying it is highly likely Kiev was behind the attempted attack. MJ Mondihar reports.
Kremlin spokesperson Peskov acknowledged there was no solid evidence yet on Ukraine's alleged involvement on the Turk Stream issue, but said Kiev's track record on targeting energy infrastructure made its involvement the most probable conclusion.
Ситуация потенциально очень опасная. Мы знаем, что инфраструктура, различные участки инфраструктуры и турецкого потока, и голубого потока неоднократно подвергались атакам киевского режима. Мы знаем, что пока нет доподлинных доказательств того, кто может стоять за попытками атак на европейской территории, на эту важнейшую энергетическую артерию, которая сейчас работает в очень напряженном режиме. И до этого, как мы знаем, киевский режим имел прямое отношение к таким актам саботажа против критической энергоструктуры. С большой долей вероятности можно предположить, что и на этот раз какие-то следы вмешательства киевского режима будут обнаружены.
The explosive devices were discovered by Serbian authorities over the weekend at a gas pipeline facility linking Serbia and Hungary. Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić said the investigation has already uncovered leads and issued a stark warning to anyone targeting Serbian infrastructure, saying those caught would face severe consequences. Ukraine flatly denied any involvement, with Foreign Minister spokesperson Yori Teki suggesting the incident could itself be a Russian false flag operation. though he offered no evidence to support the claim. The attempted attack is the latest in a series of incidents targeting the pipeline. Gazprom reported that the Ruskaya compressor station in Krasnodar region, a key node in the Turk Stream supply chain, came under drone attack on the night of April 1st to 2nd. The attack was repelled with no damage caused. Similar attempts were also reported between March 17th and 19th. Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zarakova warned that Ukraine's actions risked further destabilizing global energy markets, already under severe strain from the escalating conflict in the Middle East. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been MJ Mondeja, SBN News.
NASA's Artemis 2 mission has reached one of its most critical moments, with the spacecraft passing behind the moon and cutting off all contact with Earth for around 40 minutes. Mission controllers confirmed the planned loss of signals as the spacecraft moved to its most distant point from Earth, signaling behind the far side of the moon and cut off direct line of contact. The blackout, lasting around 40 minutes, is a routine but significant phase of the mission's deep space lunar trajectory. Cameras captured the spacecraft moving against the backdrop of the moon, with Earth visible in the distance, a striking image that underscores just how far the crew has traveled. Artemis 2 is the first crewed flight in NASA's Artemis program, and the first time humans have ventured this deep into space in more than 50 years. The mission is designed to put spacecraft systems, deep space navigation, and life support operations through their space ahead of Artemis 3, which aims to land astronauts on the lunar surface and lay the groundwork for long-term human exploration beyond Earth orbit. When we return, a former cabinet member is raising concerns over the Ombudsman's order to release lawmakers' sal ends. Critics argue the mandate to release could be weaponized against those under investigation. And in showbiz, Gigi Hadid has responded after being named in unsealed Jeffrey Epstein documents. The supermodel denied any wrongdoing, dismissing the mention as a misleading connection. More news after the break.
Madalas ka bang napapasobra sa pag-scroll sa phone mo kahit puro masasamang balita ang nakikita mo? Isipin mo ito. Nakahiga ka na sa kama. Nagche-check lang ng phone bago matulog. Tapos, hindi mo na malayan, ilang oras ka na palang nagbabasa at nanonood ng mga balita tungkol sa digmaan, sakuna, politika, at lahat ng masasamang nangyayari sa mundo. Nakakaramdam ka na ng kaba at pagod, pero tuloy mo pa rin ang scroll mo. Ang tawag dyan ay doom scrolling. Ito ang habit ng paulit-ulit na pagtingin sa mga negatibo o nakaka-depress na content tulad ng digmaan, krimen o problema sa mundo. Nakaka-stress pero hindi mo pa rin mapigilan. Ayon sa isang pag-aaral ng Texas Tech University, ang sobrang konsumo ng masasamang balita ay nauugnay sa pagtaas ng stress, anxiety at pisikal na sintomas gaya ng pagkapagod at sakit ng ulo. Ayon naman sa Harvard Health, ang doom scrolling ay nagpapataas ng fight or flight hormones tulad ng cortisol at adrenaline na nakakapagpabigat ng isip at katawan. Nakakaapekto ito sa iyong mood, tulog at maging sa mental at physical health mo. At kapag naman puro memes at random na content ang pinapanood mo ng sunod-sunod hanggang sa mawalan ka na ng gana na mag-isip at gumawa ng iba pang gawain, ang tawag naman dyan ay brain rot. Sa Gen Z at tinatawag na internet culture, ang brain rot ay overconsumption o sobrang tagal na panonood ng paulit-ulit, mababaw, magulo o walang saysay na content online hanggang sa parang manhid na ang utak mo. Kapag nasobrahan, syempre, nakakasama. Nawawalan ka na ng focus, nawawala ang motivation, hirap mag-isip ng malalim, parang lutang o foggy ang utak. Masaya sa simula, pero kapag sobra, napapagod ang isip mo. Nahihirapang mag-concentrate at parang lutang. Mas delikado pa ito sa mga bata dahil ang utak nila ay nasa proseso pa ng pag-develop. Kaya mas malakas ang epekto ng doom scrolling at brain rot sa kanila. Maaaring makaapekto sa pag-aaral, pag-iisip at pakikitungo sa iba. Ang higit sa 4 na oras ng screen time araw-araw sa mga kabataan ay konektado sa 35 to 88% na mas mataas na posibilidad ng depresyon, anxiety at stress. Base ito sa isang malawakang pag-aaral sa Brazil. Kaya, maging balanse. Magpahinga sa screen, magbasa, makipagkwentuhan, magdasal, maging present lagi. Alagaan ang iyong isipan. Kung anong itinatanim sa isipan mo, yun ang lalago.
And we're back. A former congressman and cabinet member has raised concerns over the order of the Office of the Ombudsman to release the SALN of lawmakers under investigation. Find out why in this report by MJ Mondihar.
At sa linggong ito, pag di namin nakuha yung mga SALN na una namin hiningi, ay sususpindihin ko po siya.
That was the warning of Ombudsman Boying Rimulya to House Secretary General Cheloy Garafil if the House fails to release the documents he requested. At the center of the issue, the Statement of Assets, Liabilities, and Net Worth or SALN of several congressmen under investigation, including those allegedly linked to flood control anomalies.
Trabaho naman ng ombudsman yan at maganda tinitingnan nila yung mga SALN. Medyo, ang akin lang kasi, meron tayong impeachment na pinagdadaanan ngayon.
For former Congressman Mike Defensor, the timing of the SALN request is questionable. The House Committee on Justice is now currently deliberating on the impeachment complaint against Vice President Sara Duterte. The second
para takutin yung mga kongresista na pagka kayo hindi bumoto ay kakasuhan namin kayo.
Earlier, Navotas Representative Toby Tiangco claimed that some lawmakers were allegedly offered funding allocations in exchange for supporting the first impeachment of Vice President Duterte. He said that program appropriations in the national budget were used, a claim that Malacanang has denied.
Baka siguro yung budget medyo hirap sila ngayon dahil nga may mga krisis tayong kinakaharap. Wala silang pambigay sa mga kongresista katulad ng mga nangyari ng mga nakaraang araw. Wala nang mga maleta na ubos na. Baka ito na yung gamitin na takutan na.
Defensor advised lawmakers to carefully consider whether they will support the impeachment or not. As a 9-year veteran of the Arroyo cabinet, Defensor stressed that politics moves in cycles.
Sa ating mga miyembro ng Kongreso, tingnan po nila na mabuti yan. Hindi permanente ang sitwasyon natin. Magbabago po ito. Darating ang panahon, magkakaroon ng paghusgahan tao. No? At pagkamupo pa si BP Inday Sara, di ba? Kaya dapat ang maging desisyon ng mga kongresista ay huwag sila magpatakot. Ang desisyon ng kongresista kung ano yung dapat at kung ano ikakabuti ng ating bansa.
Reporting for Newsline World, this has been MJ Mondiha, SMNI News.
Tourists are flocking to southwest China to witness the breathtaking bloom of rhododendrons, transforming hillsides into a vibrant sea of color. Joy Tabanao has a story.
Visitors from across the country have gathered to admire the red and pink blossoms, drawn by the region's rich biodiversity and scenic landscapes.
我是从成都过来的，就觉得这边的花很漂亮，漫山遍野都是，很出名，一直想来看看。还有就觉得这个怎么会这么神奇，这么多原生态的，而且是树林特别长的杜鹃花，各种颜色都有，就觉得特别的美。
Many travelers say the long journey is well worth the experience, as the blooming season offers a rare and picturesque natural display.
就是我家是在成都，但是我工作是在达州，所以其实旅途是比较坎坷的。就是我是3号晚上先从达州回到了成都，然后4号早上再从成都坐高铁来到的毕节。虽然说比较辛苦，但是我觉得还是非常值得的，因为就是要珍惜每一天的假期，然后就来到这边看了花海。 虽然说人很多，但是还是非常美丽、非常震撼的，所以我感觉是很快乐、很幸福。 服的。
However, some visitors raise concerns over crowd management and facilities, saying improvements could enhance the overall experience.
印象深刻可能就是调度的问题，我觉得就是景区可能可以再丰富一下，就是管理，就是这方面调度的问题，因为像人流太多了，可能控制啊，或者是说车辆上就没有做到那么的好，但是风景还是很美丽的，就是感受来说，就是这一点不太好。
Despite minor challenges, the stunning rhododendron bloom continues to draw large crowds, highlighting the area as the popular seasonal destination for future lovers. This has been Choi Tabanaw, your global citizen correspondent reporting for Newsline World.
A new road safety innovation is turning heads in China, as multicolored laser lights are being used to help drivers stay alert and combat fatigue during nighttime travel. This report. The laser installations projected along highways aim to reduce the risk of accidents caused by drowsy driving by stimulating drivers' attention.
我是第一次见这种五彩的激光，对那个夜间疲劳驾驶非常有效。有的时候夜间开车吧比较容易打盹儿，然后看到这个激光呢就特别精神了。我觉得这个设计非常好，非常棒。
Drivers say the vibrant lights not only enhance visibility, but also provide a refreshing visual experience during the long night journeys.
第一次见这么炫酷的灯光，作为晚上开夜路的驾驶员来说，确实很容易犯困。之前还很新奇，后面看了之后才发现，确实很有效地缓解了我们的疲劳。这是我们驾驶员很好的一个设施。
Authorities hope the system will improve road safety, particularly on long stretches of highway where fatigue-related incidents are more common. As the technology gains attention, it may pave the way for more innovative solutions aimed at reducing accidents and enhancing driver safety. Lady Gaga has cancelled her scheduled concert in Montreal just hours before showtime, citing health concerns. Meanwhile, supermodel Gigi Hadid has responded after she and her sister, Bella Hadid, were mentioned in documents linked to Jeffrey Epstein. Daniela Polite has the latest updates.
Lady Gaga announced the cancellation on Monday evening, only 3 hours before she was set to take the stage. In a statement shared on Instagram, Lady Gaga said she was unable to perform as she has been battling a respiratory infection. Fans expressed disappointment over the sudden cancellation, though many also voiced support and well wishes for the singer's recovery. No immediate details were provided regarding a possible rescheduled date for the concert. The announcement highlights the challenges performers face while on tour, as health issues can force last-minute changes despite packed schedules. The Hadids and Epstein. According to reports, the Hadid sisters were referenced in a 2015 email exchange between Epstein and another individual whose name was redacted in the files. The documents do not indicate any wrongdoing by either Gigi or Bella Hadid. In a statement, Gigi addressed the mention, clarifying her position as public interest continues to grow around the release of Epstein-related records. The case has drawn renewed attention in recent months, with previously sealed materials becoming public. The developments have once again placed scrutiny on individuals named in the Epstein files, even as many emphasize that inclusion in the documents does not imply involvement in any illegal activity.
This has been Daniela Paulita, bringing you the latest showbuzz.
In women's football, Manchester City WFC secured a place in the semi-finals of the Women's FA Cup after a hard-fought win over Birmingham City WFC. Meanwhile, Tiger Woods may be absent from this year's The Masters, but fellow players say the golf legend remains in their thoughts as he undergoes treatment. Carl de la Peña for the reports.
In their quarterfinal clash of the Women's FA Cup, Manchester City WFC edged second-tier side Birmingham City WFC to book a semi-final showdown with Chelsea FC women. Khadija Shaw gave City an early lead after finishing a cross from Ayman Beni, putting the visitors ahead in the opening stages of the match. Manchester City dominated possession and chances throughout the contest, but Birmingham's determined defensive effort and relentless pressing prevented the visitors from adding more goals. City created several opportunities, striking the woodwork 3 times, including efforts from Shaw, Yui Hasegawa, and Rebecca Knack. Despite the pressure, Birmingham struggled to threaten offensively and managed only 2 attempts on goal. The victory sends Manchester City into the semi-finals for the second straight season, where they will face Chelsea, while the other semi-final will feature Liverpool FC women against Brighton and Hove Albion WFC. Meanwhile, as the tournament unfolds at Augusta National Golf Club, several golfers expressed concern for Tiger Woods, who stepped away from the sport last week to begin treatment following a DUI arrest near his home in Florida. Authorities said Woods was involved in a car crash and later found with hydrocodone pills, an opioid painkiller, and appeared unable to safely drive when apprehended. Australian golfer Jason Day said the situation shows the human struggles even elite athletes face, noting that Woods has undergone numerous surgeries that may have led to reliance on pain medication. Meanwhile, 1992 Masters champion Fred Couples said he was relieved to hear Woods had traveled to Switzerland to seek treatment and hopes his longtime friend will recover. 2018 Masters winner Patrick Reed also expressed support, saying many players are rooting for Woods to overcome the challenge and eventually return to competition. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Carlo de la Peña bringing you the latest sports news.
And before we end, may you be inspired with the words of the song. Humility and sincerity are what counts in the character of a man. And that's all for this edition of Newsline World. For God in my beloved country, the Philippines, I'm Prince Tripoli. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.
This is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.